Good.
I'm good.
Everyone's good?
Yep.
Ahead, all that he could see were the mounds of trailings 30 feet high, uranium waste flowing in the breeze carried by the rains, springs, and rivers. Here was the new work of destroyers. Here was destruction and poison. Here was where life ended. Warren 20. Radioactive colonialism minimized by disinformation claims lands, concentrating toxicity and racist groups, slow violence, supporting discourse, ontology, and imagination allowed for production of long giant impacts, nuclear majority, and space around dominant imagination, inhabitants, lives, and health do not matter, provide space out figures, anti civilization, toxic ecology, and calculate self-fulfilling prophecy, concept of discursive mirage, even ontological concession that allowed rhythms of slow violence, settler health, and analytics can't capture indigenous misery, radioactivity incubates, dead and life, atmospheric terror permeates both debate and the reserve rate. Belcourt 18. Expecting that as a quality social death, gospel of kids, cause and effective hydrogenated death, issues, indigenity, miserable, feeling of not being in the world, diseases, manifestations, violence, subjectivity, operating as both obstacles the world doesn't get affected by atmosphere, social indigeneity, and take our co-specific scapegoats, like genes dying of the past, the ecology dying, describes causes to becoming liminal, not fairly portioned worlds, wrinkled by universality, pristine speech, acts, or epistemological solutions, blurring settler governance into conditional or left enact, affect, and how future is sickness, and it's a structural diagnosis, slow death, it's indigeneity's future incubator of death and life, where aspirational death produces the fatal radical fatalism, those that do not what dying does dying's repetition due to the promise that company something is durable, precarity is the condition of our time, where living together to settle clones, revolting speed up, decaying ingenuity, bodies by political generated to destroy themselves from the inside, from the destruction of indigenous reserve to the supposed threats of nuclear war from another imperial power, the fantasy of nuclear conflict in the search for the proper posture is created for the benefit of sustaining the violent infrastructures for white supremacist temporalities. Make it 23. Policing by hatred and suffering, incurable nuclear warfare, fantasy, technical racist, practice cannot be epistemic, oversight, epistemic, reflections not jeopardize enjoyment, racist hierarchy, debates about nuclear policy take place in the terms constituted by opposition, pleasure, opened by these relations, question of how weaponry affects subjectivity, germane study, another approach would address how existing dialogue sustain, and consider how to disarm human nuclear entanglements, directly addressing disciplines, racist hierarchy, news, and gender fraud, not to restore statically racist, neoliberal democracy, but to produce a world of racial conflict constituted by atomic genocide. The international order demands a violent facade of pacification that intensifies the atmospheric violence on the psyche and nuclear violence on the populace. Be skeptical of transition and scientific positivism. Baron Nettle, 1819. Colonial violence to diffuse pacification in terms of the psyche of the colonies affecting their health as atmospheric violence, civilizing imagination to obscure the foundational rule by colonial white supremacy structure in the international order. This legitimized exporting violence to create Western imperial pacts and the consequence of racist hubris with the inability to foresee destructive tendency of Western warfare against themselves. The moral phenomenology of war becomes the integral of violence committed by the liberal states justified violence. Currently, liberal states not U.S. motivated by attachment pacification. We grant empirical findings of liberal peace theories and positive super social institutions ensure direct violence by resources by violence in place there is more slavery than ever, mortality rates increase, pacification covers the doctrines of decline, direct violence made concern the transformation of violence and ways that are considered all by pacification under violence, invisible nuclear intimidation constitute the liberal order. I've been talking to you people from the beginning. I have told you the names of identities of days and years. I've told you the stories on each day and year so that you can be prepared to protect yourself. What I have told you has always been true. What I tell you now is that the world is about to end. Those were the last words of the giant serpent. Sims 25. The world has ended many times. The world ending states that why settlers, relations, reduce the resources at the end of the world is one of the earth reunite living with the dead, not bring peace and unity to native people. This sacred danger, so since it spreads quick prophecy. Renewed earth is the evil washed away from the earth, roll away from a white man's ugly things to underneath the wonderful old new world as it had been. Sterling knew why the giant snake had returned. Now he knew the snake's message was to the people the possession of nuclear weapons is immoral. Holy 17. A near established possibility temporal resistance of a giant state emergence from Uranian colonial practices located in the past military parameters possibility assuming the white Western realism radioactive materials and principal problems model cause effects inadequate and nuclear temporalities and poor consequences everyday present systems of white time of stories snakes emergence the return to the past creating disembodied consciousness they define the politics snakes functions the point towards future completely unimagined to structure from incanted the corporation nuclear waste and laundry durée encounter reveal impossibility of the future within human perspective. The one you see tells the story of Leslie Slocum's Almanac of the Dead as a call for consideration across policies where indigenous presence is always marked out of time. How can you imagine otherwise? Mark 20. Giant snake at the foot of mine, tailing the elders identified master the ancient spirit system with protection special messenger of indigenous revolution with South materials, otherwise abstract, constant infused revolutionary energy, long age array of decay means uranium automates at stellar time scales armaments, prophecies that predict the evolution of American dominance, Almanac, develops counter economy of energetics, makes elimination possibility of tradition, enters the game for colonial occupation, embrace the unpredictable nature of indigenous slipstream, only that unearths the uniform subject at the core of classical physics to spawn narratives that exceed the legalized social episteme. Ornelius 21. Memory and purpose have their own roots to the current slipstream carriers as ontology, terror structure, everyday life, not to create new worlds with spurns against themselves and refreezing. Hegemonic time narrative structure, incorporating time travel and alternative histories is the affirmation of indigenous realities. Assertions of settler death after biopolitical jurisdiction over temporality ensures white frontier regeneration wonders. 20. Near settler death, the exclusive rights to dictate temporality depend on ideological support furnished by later future regeneration and reproduce naturalization of settler substituted versus settler temporalities from standing coin on representation of genociding temporalities bare minimum. 2. Remaking the worlds. New apps are good. Key to innovation, outground critical testing at the TFC and condos bad and causes time and stress could dismiss wells. refuse settler colonialism in every instance. Woman 24. Injustice so extreme that colonial regimes fail to secure freedom in any sense. Actual colonialism is deeply wrong. There are overwhelming reasons to reject. What made colonialism aberrant was a violation of equality. All colonialism must be wrong manner in which colonial associations entered is unacceptable to the company for all instances. Otherwise, from the Supreme Court's invocation of the impossibility doctrine to the stereotype of the vanishing Indian within popular culture, white realism is a self-fulfilling prophecy that suffocates indigenous cosmologies. Hurley 17. Critical buildback from right establishment steps from the social reality revolutions are possible in opposition based on metaphysics of time and it's disavowed the premise of temporal consistency, disavowed invocation of possibility doctrine, feminists, ongoing power of white defined realism, any anti-colonial fighters accept redefinition of reality in terms of deemed impossible within conventional wisdom of professors, any colonial movement require counter-realist politics and anti strategy with politics remains prudent and redefining in reality against colonial norms or novel reforms or understanding of nuclear apocalypse.
You good?
Yeah.
Does the app garner representational offense?
The 1AC has proved the morality of the statement.
Okay, so does the neg win for proving that nukes are not immoral, or possession of nukes is immoral?
The negative wins for proving the resolution false.
Okay, so proving that the possession of nuclear weapons is not immoral, materially. Okay.
Well, I didn't say materially. Just.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, you can win the value statement. The possession of nuclear weapons is immoral is false, and then that is your win condition.
Is your dispute like over the word materially, like just not util? Because I'm not saying just util. Like also, I could disprove it deontically. Does that suffice?
If you have won a reason why the resolution is incorrect, then
okay, I'm gonna hold you to that. Let's talk about the Weltman card. What is the warrant? Is it just agency?
The relevant evidence says that all colonialism must be wrong because colonial associations are entered are unacceptable. This means that we are not able, like you must overcorrect to refuse settler colonialism because colonialism is entrenched in everything we do. So you have to overcorrect and reject any evidence.
Do you defend a claim for like ontological humanity, i.e., a state of being that is permeable throughout life and systems are not malleable?
Wait, what's your question?
Do you defend ontology?
Well, we have made a structural claim about the way settler colonialism works, but we have not said that it's not malleable and that like things can't change.
Okay, so wouldn't that seemingly disprove Weltman because you said it permeates throughout society now? Just because it doesn't mean
correct. It does permeate through society now.
So if we win that some alternative would create either more colonialism or there's some alternative metric which would solve, does that?
If you win an alternative creates more colonialism, I'm unsure why you would.
No, avoids colonialism.
Okay, well, we have said that the app is good to refuse settler colonialism.
Okay, what's the offense? Like, why do nukes cause more colonialism?
Okay, yeah, there are a few reasons. First, intrinsically, nuclear weapons are anti.
Well, let's go with each. The Hurley card is seemingly not about whether or not nukes actually cause colonialism. It's about representations and narratives around that, right? Narrative establishes the possibility for temporal existence. So does that prove that? Like, how does that prove nukes are literally immoral?
This Hurley evidence says that realism is incorrect, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, etc.
Wait, realism isn't like IR realism, or realism isn't like the natural world?
The IR realism.
Okay. I seemingly don't understand. How does that prove that nukes are immoral?
Well, it's just stuff we've said in the 1AC. Our offense.
You just said stuff. What do you mean? It's just stuff you said in the 1AC.
Okay, our offense. Well, you asked me why we think nukes are immoral. There are two reasons. First, intrinsically, we have read evidence that nukes create a new ontology where, like, it creates structures of settler. It creates new structures of colonialism.
That's my question.
Okay, sure. So, like, things, for example, mutually assured destruction creates like a false example of like how nukes would kill people.
If I don't use nukes for deterrence, that wouldn't.
That's one example. Sure.
Okay,
if you win that nukes are not for deterrence, then yes, the mutually assured.
Well, they are right now, but doesn't mean they always have to be. Tell me the second one.
Okay, sure. Our our warrant evidence says that radioactivity of the nuclear weapons are bad because it.
Wait, if I just never blow up the nuke without proof possessing it is not immoral?
No, because it's intrinsic to the nuclear weapon. I'm confused.
Radioactivity is okay. How does that radioactivity affect?
Wait, how do you think nukes?
How does that radioactivity affect indigenous people if that nuke is never used?
Because well, first of all, nukes can leak byproduct like.
Have you read cards that nukes will leak?
The warrant evidence is intrinsic to the nature of nuclear weapons. It's not about the destruction that nuclear weapons could eventually cause.
No, like what stuff. 5 minutes of prep starting now. Are these normative?
1AC is not made a claim about.
Are they normative or non-normative?
The 1AC is not made a claim about that.
Is your offense normative or non-normative?
Our offense is to refuse settler colonialism in every instance.
Because it's okay. It's normative. stop, 245. Left. Let me just write that down and then I will send it.
245?
Yes. Okay. It's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off. Okay, I'm sending it. Actually, my Wi-Fi isn't working. Can I borrow you soon? While I get back on the Wi-Fi. 7 off, thanks. Alright, Wi-Fi isn't working, so I'll put my hotspot. Okay, I'm sending it. This one's up. Sorry that took so long. Like my Wi-Fi.
You're good.
Oh, actually, it's 6 off. Ignore the first one. Oops.
Okay.
Okay, anyone not ready?
I need a sec.
Give me a sec, yeah.
Six, right?
Yeah, 6.
Cool. I'm good.
Give me.
Yep.
Okay. States shall publicly declare and abide by binding nuclear no first use policy. States shall publicly declare and abide by that binding policy of nuclear no use. And government shall murder everyone if and only in possession of nuclear weapons is moral in the possession of nuclear weapons in North Korea, Russia, China, India, Pakistan, France, and the United Kingdom is moral if it is moral in the 50 states. And weapons of natural actions believe national government associations suspend their cooperation with the administration of no organs of the United States federal government in possession of nuclear weapons and moral. Plank 1, 2, solve every four is intrinsically bad. Ethics are normative. That's for the 1 but just sufficient for the next second. Plank 3 is consequential with operates at the same level as alpha. Functionally, can go competition explicitly about mandates. Death is the worst violation of agency. Wilcox, something is of the agency, things about each rule is wrong. Dead life with morals. That's only granted capacity for agency. Death wrong agency things of wrong to just action. Any life without being automatic agency is right next to the agency to the course of life. Plank 4 results in the after providing inclusive federalism. Look 25%. Currency gets go up and get federalism correct. The states go up and base for to adopt the UTA with gender participation power. Unless public authority orchestrating of program decides autonomy states refuse to implement programs critical to natural that enables to feedback. Blue states simply defend the signaling resistance autonomy states. Resistance can get practical risk based on the assumption collective action problem. This encourage participation because of their extinction. Mohawkis 1952 market to the problem of Korea. ISIS and to the war because there's a great problem. The risk within years of the failing government district from states so much that it makes target lobbying negotiations possible. Increase of balance consistent plus address to be very straight. Big response significant solutions to societal change. Cut the card. There at worst agency violations. Watch out. Presumption against first burdens. NSK 23 F. Burden with the rest. If the F fails, they lose. Second probability. There's different ways to prove something false, but only one to prove it true. So statements are more likely to be false. 3 logic proves the obligation true. In some defeating the force of the F, the possible burden of disproving the infinite set of alternative obligations that have been presumed true. Condoms good. Keep out flex. For shift the assets from multiple angles. Forcing F keep more exposed logical option, especially against new undisclosed affirmative. They control strategy. Dispose use inevitable process checks. No strategy. You ask for the 1AC diminishing utility. Multiple arguments. Meeting cross polite things. No times. You inevitable because anything procedural. Takes off. The 1AC trace information allows for social progress. That creates a perfect relationship. Process authority. Perpetuate principles of authoritative rhetorical frame worthy. Watch make the culpability balance for especially the metaphorical fuel for the last benefit. From what these found out tools for the progress. Inevitably gassing. But the white touch reframe. Where sex moments eating even good attention to decide racial life balance. The hope of a better future. No leader for races. The master education justifiable for the world. The transcendent words about floating criticized on pure bodies figures that rather than the laborers producing scholars and activists. Cut the guard there moral implications in the context of war that the corporate 21 objective to limit war the basic moral authority even though they need in power relations, theory dynamic, or calculated moderation of life, support technologies governing the enemy, ideals of universal value, enshrined in strict harmonization as lives are often upset against military effectiveness, geopolitical politics, reading colonialism, power conflicts, power of abstraction, self-serving narratives, progress and murder, demortification, rhetoric, as well obligated force towards colonialism, action through reserve form, moralized and legally deregulated, property rights are colonial, lynch, 24 possession, consumer property rights are subject to the lord, should goes around with gas, if something have been perceived, used, transacted, and other words, received possession that specifies major property rights, different rights based on gender, race, and class, for inclusion and exclusion, coding cars, property disputes, limited recognition, but validation for public authority, act recognizing, recursively authorizes the authorizer, cut the code there, framework, about the money sees research projects and debate solely around hypothetical consequences of friends, terror, justifications, and assumptions behind policy proposals, internalizing analytical research, cuts accessibility, which outweighs, denying its ultimate use because it makes engagement impossible, being here is a prereq for debate to matter. One is subject formation is true, minus 21, there are patterns of neurological data, system organization, for the word people become stable, not accepted, not subject to the worst, multiple bases for engaging self-identity, conditional beliefs, to appropriate environment, mental social resources, individual activities, of experiences, pathologizing others, modified neurological dynamics, thinking, internalized active performances, those, and assessments, better worse, influence, and object, to prove to require habits of automatic, the fundamental the way, station those neutralized, to develop, to participate, those who don't, second, the ballot, if it's a game, it's continued to shape by how to play, Zagrin, 9, games of groups will contention, contention, limited, not to trajectory, equity of all participant referees, because of the government teaching faith, we can develop to basic game, competition, to counter-argument, barrier, changing dynamics, motivating research, and select pressure, and guessing something rather than also specific such practice the game, go out to use your heavily goals, evaluate models, regardless of solvency, debates built on arguing or answering arguments by taking them to the logical extremes, debating hypothetical analogies, if that statements with classic activity, because we can never read a critique based on something justifies something bad, they also rely on this logic, they will contextualize opposite to the links we could read and actually interpret. The one who investigating critiques of rhetoric is a weak condition, they violate the defender framework interpret. Winning a wrestling is insufficient to negate A is silent. Actually, no, A is reverse causal and new studies for critical discourse is key, cost repeating 23, the organization culture of debating sharing condition content, they improve relation to organization, normalized debates and organization value for traditional debate, conclude out by race, students respond to repeated student arguments, logic distance for debaters, experience the organization culture teams, influences space, supports, plots, direct contact, degree, positive ratio, attitudes, justice, and reward students. Not talking about the T branches, whiteness, and American society, translate the micro-national debate, traditional debate about politics, privileging white norms, communicating how to give themselves, being a program is play key role encouraging engagement. As minority students, the negative experience with have to talk about personal relations, the topic protected different sounds, when race, race, and equality is continued LD, NSC 13, LD debate, how to speak more board, the content, presentation, content. It's one out of the speaking, judging, choose to not speeches to get the figure, fail to engage, and evaluation, which uploads the type of 24 paragraphs, are controlled designated audience, hateful language to forbidden, people try to get to good people, and really, in NSC, for the critique most of the underlying substance, comment, debate, next off, new undisclosed answer, voting issue, they violate, and 4 chain, if they contested, they force nonsense, lock about 7 minutes, and 7 rigorous key text, encouraging prolific if you want to ask that, we're just twice next terror cross play, paradigms, go to, yeah. Interpretation of one of these burdens proof potential nukes is intrinsically immoral. It's a source identity. Part 20 sentence for the APSB. It's a source identity argument that requires demonstrating permanent unalterable properties mandated in one predicate, express permanent unalterable properties theoretical, but not sense to stage the level of individual innovation. The level of distinction disparts individual circumstances mandated in one characterizing property cannot be held for all future temporal locations, only particular time, place, something cannot have the permanent property being intelligent. And being intelligent in the against violation, the applicant does possession with the goal of technological mastery, not possession universally crossings where they kill radiation. Isn't necessarily going to happen. The radiating cars at least will happen, even if they do. It doesn't necessarily affect indigenous people. Also, the NFU counterplay should solve everything. Counter max chase should limit claim of sole purpose in nuclear arsenals to claim to defense for asteroids, nuclear safety, worst case, new collision, green 19 experts in argue tanks most effectively often respond to extreme gale. In fact, that's what making collision nuclear explosion 100 times more effective than not the new class of 15 beats transporting it large energy across all agents and preserve the last resort radio. The large ship for the non-nuclear beats possible, giving cake required bureaucrats to lead time, significant harm to be a higher energy use and reducing mass rating of trajectories of play in short time frames. Semantics outweigh the only non-arbitrary way to determine the asteroids which will burden laying them shift obvious perhaps the choice. Engage with the only ultimate form of reciprocity, which is ultimately unfair. Go to case. Extinction outweighs life is a floor for value, death is irreversible, non-consensual, and violates everyone's agency. The risks that were right outweigh threats for wrong, being alive is a prerequisite to determine moral truths. Existential threats are definitionally universal. They affect everyone. It's not securitization. If our offense is true, denying every impact with blanket statements like secured whiteness is conspiracy theorist logic weaponized by racists, which ensures the case value of life can never be zero, deciding for others that their lives aren't worth living is paternalistic, violates agency, and actively raises which link back to the money the impacts intensify more of a harm is ontologically worse than less of it. Anything else is trivialized and since we conflate microaggressions with the most egregious forms of racial violence will preempt predictions fail, no IFD, no ultimate consequences necessary to formulate representations and take actions accordingly. We can only know intend outcomes that we know are possible, i.e. we can leaving the door requires leaving the room knows that we require doors open, and it's reverse cause because we can't intend impossible things. I'll answer ontology through tons of examples of modern progress, which means there's no normative claims. Large than 25 significant HDR of looking research to the present state's monolithic within political ontology creatures. What's active contributed expectations where the state must foster settlements for content challenges, states monolithic, and always bad to agencies being mandates of representation of indigenous rights officials, defensive time, intersections, the outside negotiated order, intervene, state agencies act into control in contact zones. That's sufficient. Hope is good. The affirmative relies on it just as much as we do. No, like Warren.
Tons of progress is proven. They made normative claims to one example sufficient. Can worthy claims exist? Will segregation of constitutions and civil rights like the BRA? Unlike scooter barriers, affirmative action policy began making racial progress with the quantum of Mr. Barack Obama elected education. Progress has been substantial. Economic well-being, employee gap has narrowed, and poverty rate gap decreased significantly. Health and life expectancy made progress. Happiness gap has been increasing. In integration, racial segregation has decreased significantly. That's fine.
Wait, before cross, can you send the cards around the case?
Yes. You go with body, it's just 2 cards.
Can you send it as a Word document?
Sure. Okay, sending out. Consent. You good?
The cards one here?
Yes.
Okay, doesn't wait, what? It's fine. Good for cross?
Yes.
Okay, cool. The critique, or, okay, status.
Condition.
Okay, the critique, the first card, I'm confused why the 1AC trades racial violence for social progress.
Yeah, our argument is that rhetorically framing violence in a number of ways is bad. The first, which the affirmative is invested.
Wait.
The first way.
Framing violence in the number of ways is bad?
No, the number of ways that the affirmative has framed it. The first way.
What? Wait, dude, you've just said framing violence in the way the 1AC has framed it is bad.
Wait, I was about to say the ways. Like, do you want me to
Sure,
say the ways? The first way is, quote, framing it as atemporal and, quote, always a thing. Just by
Okay, the 1AC is said that, this violence is able to be solved via the method of the 1AC. How does the AF link?
Well, no, you made a claim that, outside of existing methods of, time and outside of existing methods of society, people don't, or indigenous people or minorities, don't have access to the same things that, the dominant groups do. That's the argument of a card like Warren.
Okay,
That
so
being
we
said,
cannot say inequality exists?
No, you can. You just can't say it's atemporal or will always be true.
We have not
some
said
form
that.
of-
Okay, the next
Some
one.
form of societal major change, which you have said. You said society
We
is
can't say
structured-
society is biased against
No,
indigenous
again,
people.
I'll make this clear. Your argument is you can't make a fatalistic claim that society will
Okay,
never
what is
get
not
better
fatalistic?
absent
Okay,
a
the next-
change
the
in
next-
this
the
order of
next way.
society. The second way is that the affirmative is invested in a form of racial progress where you
So we can't say progress,
no,
but we can't say
can
fatality.
you, let me finish?
Okay,
You want me to
sure.
explain the
Okay,
links?
sure.
The second way is that the affirmative has portrayed a form of racial progress where you get the validity of having a teaching moment where you describe other people's experiences and violence done onto others in a way that would benefit you. The argument is that, quote, reframe racist acts as a moment of teaching. Even good intentions justify racialized violence under the hope of a better
Okay,
future.
sure. And then the next way?
You want me to just go through all these? The McCormack card says ideas.
Okay, no, that's fine. The McCormack card is fine. The counter plan, okay, yeah. Why does agency matter?
That was the cross-ex of the indigenous violence outweighs card. You made the argument that indigenous violence outweighs because A, it structures society, and B,
Well, no, we
violates
said you should
agency.
overcorrect because it permeates throughout,
Sure, I think this turns off your offense. Obviously, the government killing everyone would be bad, as per our extinction outweighs push on case.
Okay, so you need to win extinction outweighs to win agency?
No, I disagree.
Okay, then why does agency matter?
Our card gives a good example of this. The Wilcox card is excellent. It says agency plays a foundational role. Because in order
Yeah. This says that death is a violation of agency, but it does not explain
it
why
explains
agency
why
matters.
agency is good. Quote, agency is bad because it robs future satisfaction desires by anyone life undermines agency.
Okay, so
There's
it
not an
requires you to
exercise
match.
of agency.
It requires you to win future lives, etc.
Well, I also disagree with that. I mean, agency is obviously a meta constraint on things like evaluation. Because in order
Okay,
to evaluate
why
this,
does
you must use
agency matter absent this future generations argument?
I just gave a reason. It's a meta constraint evaluation.
What is that? What is a meta constraint evaluation even?
In order for the judge to evaluate whether or not agency is an impact, they must exercise agency, which means it has to be an impact. Otherwise, it would be paradoxical.
Okay, sure. That's fine. Reasons to reject the team, new Fs, the burdens NC, the other shell, anything else? Wait, sorry. Flex. Reasons to reject that, 1EC?
What do you mean the other show? Which one's the
Like,
other
wait,
show?
sorry, it was just new Fs and burdens, correct?
There was the one, the stuff at the bottom of framework. And then there's like internal strength.
Oh, sure.
There's that. I thought that's what you were talking about. And then intrinsicness.
Yeah.
And then undisclosed Fs.
Wait, why is intrinsicness, is that the burdens NC? Oh, no, I should.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. 42 left. I'm writing that down.
Zero.
me send it one second. It's like not, Alex, it's not letting me save it because of like a permission error, so I'm gonna send it in the body.
How many cards is it? Okay, can you not send that?
Well, I literally cannot save Word docs.
Can you copy that and put it into a new Word doc and then save that one?
Sure. But like,
If it was like 3 cards, that'd be fine. but
Copy a pre-existing Word doc, edit it, paste it in.
no, I can't, like I couldn't download his cards either.
Okay, how many cards is it roughly?
Roughly it would be 1, 2, 3, 4,
If
5.
there's no alternative, like, can you just make a doc?
Like, I don't know what I want to do, dude. Like, I can't save it. Like, how about Google Docs?
Yeah.
Then you can download it.
Oh my god.
Okay. Okay.
Back to novice here.
I'm sending the Google Doc.
How do you send the ones?
No, it was working. I couldn't download your thing.
Oh.
That happens on Macs a bunch, the permission error.
Yeah. Okay, the link has been sent.
Jesus Christ.
Let me.
Hell yeah. Order.
Okay, yeah. Case, the critique, the burdens NC, T intrinsicness, new AFs, the counterplan, and then the, yeah.
Wait, can we do that again?
Okay, case,
Mhm.
critique, burdens NC, T intrinsicness, new AFs, the counterplan, and then the critique. Or sorry, no, the counterplan. The critique's not at the bottom.
What do you mean by the burdens in C?
It's like a part of a different
The situation where it was like interpretation, the one I see Oh wait, sorry, yeah.
On the K.
Which page
on
is
the
the
K.
burdens in? Is it the stuff at the bottom of the critique?
Okay, wait, no, just okay, wait. The critique will all be done on the same page. Wait, ignore the burdens and see.
Okay.
Okay. It'll just be T intrinsicness. Okay, yeah.
Hey.
Wait, case K is physical counterplan.
What?
Case, critique, intrinsicness, new Fs, counterplan.
Okay, perfect.
Is that what it is?
Did you say? Yeah. Wait. Yes.
Is that what it is?
Correct. Correct.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone good?
Yep.
Okay. The net does not try or die because death is spiritual, not physical. They falsely assume the linearity of time, rejecting the fear of death, and not society and ushers the revival and evolution of new ghostly subjects within creative agencies and top cellar rooms that the Sims evidence dropped. Also dropped time travel is real, digital streams, aligning with the quantum view of time that refused hegemonic time. Also dropped the positive peace K2 warrants. 1. Functionally conceded it. Every positive metric of warfare is flawed because it ignores slow violence that increase slavery, immortality rates. Also race neutral, like it ignores world things and sellers that is usable to the degree that's the evidence. Now the app declares nuclear weapons immoral via imaginative narratives from the Almanac of dead balance accumulates to nuclear toxicity, enables functionability of indigenous folks. It's the zone of not being nuclear mortality pacification technique that create ontology that their race lives lived experiences impose sickness onto native bodies. Now 1 AR1 extinction does not outweigh death is reversible because they drop the ghost dance and time travel is possible, which means we create infinitely new universes which allow for new life there. They say existential threats are universal irrelevant because we create new life for everyone. They say values of life can never be zero, but we are not deciding that lives are not worth living because we solve it through the AF method. They say moral harm is worse and microaggressions no impact to it because we don't say death is bad because death is not true. They drop the ghost dance evidence. Now they say no intent foresight decision. This is wrong. If we foresee something, it becomes part of our intent. Now ontology, hope is good, and the last card you should agree with the AF is not past. We think futurity is possible, but only via rejecting the colonial nature of nuclear weapons because we create new systems where indigenous people are allowed to access hope means that things have gotten better does not answer the case because it's not our ontology came. Now the critique. weigh the case, the neg must prove an opportunity cost to the 1AC with unique links and a competitive alternative. Now, we'll answer the links here. First, atemporal is wrong. The app is key to deconstructing colonial violence. The app is also not prescribing other violence to benefit us. Dropped every single card from the 1AC is indigenous authors quoting them, and they themselves claim that it is vital for us to introduce this into academic spaces because it is good, because nuclear weapons are bad. This is not a reason why it would independently benefit us, or they can't prove competitive incentives behind this because it is key to generate our scholarship. They say the McCormick evidence, this is wrong. The app is not colonial. This is about military effectiveness. We have critiqued realism, so the app is a link turn. At best, there's no link because it's about self-serving progress, self-serving narratives of progress and modernity. But they've also impact turned this on the case, which proves it's a performative double turn. The Aikson evidence is wrong. There's no securitization or threat about nuclear weapons. We have claimed that the radiation of nuclear weapons is bad, and also it is intrinsic that it is against indigenous people. Now the Lund evidence is wrong. There is no impact to property rights. There is no impact to property rights, authority, etc. Because they have not read a terminal to this. But only we've explained why you should reject indigenous violence in every instance. Now framework is wrong. Subject formation, other things, thumb, family, friends, religion, etc. The ballot cannot actualize my subjectivity. Double down means subject formation is apt because the people get better at debating. Now the ballot is wrong. The ballot can't actualize anything, even if individual rounds can shape it in the long run, because everything else, obviously thumbs and entity finals being won in favor of the case should have non-uniqueness. Now hypotheticals is wrong. 70 is key to radical clash. Now the interpretation, counter-interpretation, the affirmative does not need to grant critiques of rhetoric as a win condition because the negative must disprove the desirability of the resolution. Everything else is unpredictable. Otherwise, we auto-lose to TAs and makes affirming impossible. Now it's not. Reverse causal debate is not key. Giving a lecture solves their offense. Now it's also not considered to debate. NST 23, no right way to debate. So please do not consider this a rulebook for debate. Also, value tab solves their tab room evidence because beginning out of first increase false positives. The intrinsicness. The 1AC burden is proof possession of nuclear weapons is intrinsically immoral. It asserts identity, a sense of there's an overlap. MP1 and maybe ambiguous. It's about potentiality, inserting green. There are infinite rules. Like the one in mind that satisfies potentiality. Generality is the top requirement, inserting green. Now the counterpoint also cannot solve because there is no impact solving extinction. In fact, we have impact turned it on the case. New apps are good, key to innovation, and especially true at the TOC. Drop from the 1AC. The tuner will be new and will be new. They have not answered why it's key at the TOC. Counterpoint. Permutation plan and not murder everyone not functionally intrinsic. The counterpoint is supposed to be functionally intentionally intrinsic, competitive. Otherwise, it causes it meets radical clash, which we have impacted on, but also can't solve nuclear weapons cause leaking byproducts, and the mere possession of nukes is worse because of cellular violence. The UCF also cannot solve the state was always vast and biased against indigenous people ontology, which our agency does not matter. It's about future generations, which the app solves. The counterpoints must be narratively competitive based on arc themes and conclusions.
Okay. I said. I wrote it down.
245.
245. Thank you. Starting now. I think that death is good.
The 1AC has said that death biologically is not correct because we have claimed that time travel, ghost dance, etc. are true.
Okay, but like if I die and my heart stops beating, is that good or bad?
We've not claimed that that's good or bad. We've just claimed that
Okay,
like
that's fine.
idea of biological death isn't incorrect.
Okay. Orders counterpoint T.
Figures.
Is that counterpoint T?
Yeah.
Oh, is there a dog?
No.
Good.
Actually, nah, I don't need to read it. It's okay. Okay. Anyone already?
Do it in my career against the new affirmative with a flat drop. My counterplay debate over drop UTF, no go stance offense. This is very simple. Offense defense goes our way at 100% salty affirmative offense, which is 1% risk that death is bad means you go our way. TB solves the entirety of abs based off offense defense. You have to strictly vote negative states with whole cooperation until the federal government and actual plan solves. It breaks the model of cooperative federalism. It solves governance failures causing global terrorism, nuclear prolific peninsula, and warming, which guarantees extinction. That's what Hawkins and will work. Evidence is not nuclear, which means they cannot get new responses. No new responses encourage to take back excuse. True not strategy based off whatever mistakes. Text and function. It's irrelevant. They didn't read a permutation to this counterplay, which means you cannot conclude whether it's actually or functionally competitive. But competition strictly goes our way. Functional competition alone. First, word games, team shuffle. Words from ATPs, fat out VAs, playing champion creates killer perms. Second, neck flex, join benefits. Are key with no linking dignities, new war impacts. And apps personalized speech magnified by textually legitimate, functionally intrinsic what he sees. Because they garner T offense. 3 is arbitrary and its conceived framework takes out any voters. Because they don't prove the affirmative good or bad. Also takes out textual and functional competition because text is not grounded in the resolution. The resolution indicates we're talking about functions, which means they can't garner offense. No offense changing plain language laws or other terms check abuse, no radical clash. They can just read a deficit to counterplay and would say opted to not do and instead just drop the counterplay, which makes this game over for them. Independent look, also the permutation is 0. They didn't read a permutation to this counterplay, which means you have to assume the permutation will be completely intrinsic, which would be bad because that justifies them cutting out of every net benefit to every counterplay, which 0 is net ground. As per offense above, kick the other 2 planes, conditionality justifies that they didn't give a justification why Kondo is bad. Now they say death is not bad. This is the frame. They dropped 2 arguments why death is bad. First is deontic justification. Agency violations are always bad. Cross-apply from the offense on the intrinsicness flow of the death from the if and only if counterplay. The death is bad because it violates the agency, because it violates the ability for individuals to act. Explicitly said during cross-checks, and they conceded from the card as well that agency is a prerequisite to evaluation. You cannot conclude agency is not an impact because that requires you to use your agency to evaluate it, which means systematic constraint on evaluation, even if you don't buy all of that, which meant straight conceded, which means the agency must be bad and there's no risk of a wipeout. On the argument, they had no offensive justification for why acting like extinction is bad, which means you can only act as if it's good, and offense defense strictly flows our way because they concede the counterplay solves the entirety of case. State isn't always bad. First, they explicitly said they don't defend ontology during when AC prospects, told them to that the skews are tragic, makes it possible for us to garner offense. But second, they dropped a number of reasons why ontology is wrong. First, progress disproves it. They made a normative statement that the state is always bad, so one example is sufficient to disprove it. Extend to the one NC Larson evidence. There's tons of examples of modern of progress which disproves ontology. Monolithic portrayals of the state are bad. First, we cited examples like environmental protection or indigenous rights agencies, in which states are taking action on it. And second, monolithic portrayals guarantee that there's a form of fatalism which makes indigenous movements doomed to fail because we never take pragmatism, which guarantees and turns their offense. They straight dropped this card and said explicitly they don't defend ontology, which means this cannot be a winner. Narrative competition is a blip, no justification. Functional competition was justified above, but they also just didn't give a warrant for this or explain what that even means. They explicitly said during 1AC cross-checks they don't go to offense of the representations or the narrative in the 1AC, which means there can be no external offense. They explicitly said there's no voters on any other flow, so I don't need to go there, which means you go to case. Again, I was very clear to counterplay solves the entire case because it conceded it results in the federal government and every other country doing the plan, which means there can be no external offense. Insofar as there's a 1% risk extinction is bad, I gave the first frame of agency on the other flow. Now I will send the second warrant. Exit through impacts are universal, they affect everyone, and the risk we're right outweighs the risk we're wrong. Being alive is a prerequisite to determine moral truth. This outplayers all their offense. You cannot determine the agency is not impacted without first being alive to make that determination, which means epistemic modesty means you go our way because it outplayers all their offense. Also, it drops that life is a floor for value, death is irreversible, not consensual, and violates the agency, which I explained above. Life. Now, divided life has to go our way. Deciding for others that lives aren't worth living is paternalistic, violates the agency and actively racist, which links back to any justifications for representations with matter. All these were dropped warrants from their cards, which makes it impossible for them. Indigenous time or falsely assuming linear time are incoherent. First, we explicitly indicted this on the K, and they've no linked out of it, which means they shouldn't be able to garner offense off of this. But second, the substantive proof that death is bad. Indigenous people experience suffering. Suffering is bad. They say death of indigenous people is bad. So tautologically, more death has to be more bad. Anything else is logical. No positive peace. They can't turn extinction because they never made that claim in the 1 1AC was brand new just like the responses counterplay solves the entirety of that, which means offense defense goes our way. The bearer card and race neutral, including it, is irrelevant because we're conceding framework takes out any representational offense. The app being a narrative is again not offense because they don't garner offense off of representations because it improve or disprove desirability of the resolution or the affirmative. Nuclear mortality and creating ontology on native bodies is solved by the affirmative just as much as solved by the counterplay just as much as the affirmative because they dropped it solves and results in the affirmative. Death outweighs it's wrong. Infinite universes and time travel still go our way. Death is still bad because they say death to people is bad. Anything else is A, paternalistic, which when conceded, B, violates agency, which outweighs, which when conceded, and C, is not relevant for their offense. And they say action threats are not relevant because they solve wrong. The counterplay results in gap, so it solves any reasons why it would, and there's a 1% risk that we solve extinction, which when conceded on the impact card, which means it goes our way. IFD is irrelevant, not going for it. They say it isn't pest, which is explicitly answer. The only deficit they had on the counterplay in future is possible, and progress is possible, which they said takes out state is always bad. And also when you solve the warrants why they say would always bad because the counterplay results in the app, which they say solves ontology. They say no impact to it. They say that and because death isn't true, but that doesn't deny that death is bad. Insofar as there's a 1% risk the counterplay solves death, framing goes our way. They dropped the impact card, dropped solvency. Answer was incoherent and taken out by answer on case when they said ontology is false. Hold them to it, justifies infinite double turns, which makes garnering offense impossible because they infinitely contradict themselves. They explicitly said no voters on other flows, they don't need to go there. You cannot end my career on them dropping a deficit and an impact card, or dropping the solvency and impact of a counterclaim, and saying 0 perms. Like, it's just a kill.
Start card.
Okay. Case T counterplay. Okay. Everyone good?
Yep.
The tutor subscribes to seller suicide cult. Violence does not matter, it accumulates. Nuclear toxicity provides basic colonialist violence, fungibility, indigenous folk. It is a not zone of not being notions of nuclear mortality are not neutral, but a pacification technique that to create a structural colonialist ontology that reproduces the violence they claim to erase. Now, when it has dropped that death is relevant because of things like ghost dates and time travel. The tutor is too late. Ontology controls to your office. They're behind on card quality and 1A awards. Winning one of these 2 awards is sufficient for uniqueness to overall any benefits. Native as state preconsciously perverse politics provides and improves investment in genocide, which the 1AC described as maximal violence that outweighs materiality. 1 is sickness, coheres in the flesh, misery is biosocial constitution. Colonial effects mutate into the body under reserve, generating cellular frailty, diabetes, distorted life expectancy, and create dead in life, which is independently worse. Means any risk that we are correct about ontology means the counterplan is incorrect and we have impact on it because it uses the state. Now, everything the 2 I said on why the extinction matters is irrelevant because they have dropped that time travel is true and that death it never actually occurs biologically because we can always solve it. Now, agency is incorrect. The only reason why agency would matter is because you need to have agency to conclude it doesn't matter, but drop the app solves life through the ghost dance and time travel, so it's not unique. Now, they say it's the risk that the right outweighs the risk that wrong, but there's no risk that they're right because they've dropped that death is not real from the 1AC, and the 2R is way too late to answer it now. They said suffering, this is incorrect because the status quo is suffering for native bodies. We are winning ontology, even if there have been small improvements in the indigenous living in the past. It is not going to solve suffering writ large, was that it is not sufficient to solve the case. Now, T. They've dropped indexicals. There are infinite possible worlds. If there is a risk that they're right under one of them, that satisfies potentiality. That is their evidence. Now, you should hold the line. This is also my career. If they've dropped indexicals, there's no reason why I should hack against it. They've also read evidence that proves this is not carded. We've inserted the evidence which proves that there is a single world under which which in the resolution is true. You should vote F. Now, the world in which the resolution is true is the world in which possession of nuclear weapons is immoral. The counterplan. The opposite impact turns to the counter plan. First, they have dropped that there is no impact to death. I'm confused why nuke prolid is an impact when the 1AC is about nuclear weapons being bad. That means there is no external net benefit. The second thing is that the second thing is that the counter plan requires the states and the federal government, which we have said is always going to be against indigenous people. Now, indigenous people now. Offense, defense is incorrect. The 1AR read a deficit says that ontology. If there is a risk that we are correct about ontology, you should vote affirmative now. You should vote affirmative now. There is no net benefit because it's about nuclear war, etc. Now, it's about nuclear war. There's also cannot solve the case because we have claimed why the state is always going to be against indigenous people. They say no risk of wipeout. This is incorrect. They've dropped that death is not real, so there is not a possible RFT that you can provide that offers a net benefit about death being bad. They say examples of modern progress disproves ontology. This is incorrect. The state can always be against indigenous people. It doesn't mean that progress is it doesn't mean that progress is impossible, but the state in which indigenous people have no suffering is impossible. So, like, for example, the state can do things in the correct direction, but it's never going to be able to rectify everything the state has always done that is incorrect. Also, ghost dance and time travel have been dropped. Death is not real. Was a warrant in the 1AC. The 2 hours to wait.